Let's talk about zodiac signs who don't get along with each other naturally, meaning it's a struggle. It doesn't mean they can't get along, but their energy naturally is tense. And you know, the more authentic of a person you are, the more challenging it's going to be for you to get along with everyone. In fact, I don't think you should trust anyone who gets along with everyone because it means they don't know themselves and they're fake. Now, we're respectful with everyone. We are considerate of everyone. We treat everyone fairly, but we're not supposed to like everybody. We're not supposed to be buddy-buddy with everyone because when you have an authentic energy, you honor it. And when you honor your authenticity, it creates differentiation, meaning that you are very clear about who you are and you allow other people to also be very clear about who they are. So you don't go into relationships trying to be liked, you go into relationships trying to look for a vibration that matches yours. Now let's get back into astrology. A lot of people don't understand astrology because they don't understand astrology is actually mathematics. It's about geometry, honestly. And if you were good at mathematics and geometry and understand pattern recognition, you get astrology. There are some placements in astrology that create a square. A square is not the kind of shape that you want when you're trying to grow. A triangle is better. A circle is better. There are several other shapes that give more energy to a system than a square. A square just creates tension, and as a result, these zodiac signs clash energetically. For Aries, it's Cancer and Capricorn. Aries is a go-getter. They are a masculine, fiery sign. They want what they want and they want it now. They're impulsive. They don't like to wait. They don't like to waste time. They'll rather do than sit around and talk about things. All Capricorn wants to do is strategize. All Cancer wants to do is talk through their feelings, and Aries does not have time for it. Quite frankly, it irritates them to have to put their action on hold to think it through or feel it through. Number 2, Taurus. Leo and Aquarius have a way of getting on Taurus's nerves. The Taurian likes to do things their way, and their way is very measured and controlled. Leo is all about the energy of the thing, okay? And Aquarius is all about the theoretical expression of the thing. Taurus is simply not analytical, philosophical, spiritually curious enough for Aquarius. It's not a good match. For Gemini, it's Virgo and Pisces. Here's the trick though, because Gemini is such a fluid energy, it's fluid air, you know, Gemini can get along with anyone. So oftentimes Gemini and Virgos are very attracted to each other precisely because of their mercurial influences. Mercurial, can I say that? Mercurial influences. They're both ruled by Mercury. The planet Mercury is all about communication. So although Gemini and Virgos can analytically connect really well, when it comes down to how do we live life, how do we structure life to find it fulfilling, they're vastly different because Gemini is an air sign and Virgo is an earth sign. Virgo's checking things a million times and Gemini is just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. And Pisces is simply too moody, too irrational for Gemini. Gemini is a very logical zodiac sign, and Pisces is the least logical zodiac sign of them all. So yeah, that's not a match. Pisces also likes working in the shadows, you know, being more underhanded with how they approach life. And Gemini is a lot more direct. So energetically, they just don't mix because one is going to be intellectually trying to manipulate the other while the other is trying to manipulate the other emotionally. It's not productive. For Cancer, it's Aries and Libra. You see, Cancer does things that make Cancer feel the most emotionally safe. Aries does things that bring the most adventure to their lives, and Libra does things that keep the peace. You would think that Libra and Cancer will be able to get along more, but Cancer is a lot more emotionally fluid and emotionally manipulative than Libra. Just like Gemini, Libra is an air sign. They're a logical sign, they're an intellectual zodiac sign, and they don't mix well with energies that are more emotional in nature, less logical in nature, and more underhanded. Libra is manipulative, but Libra is not manipulative emotionally. It's more like Libra thinks of life like pawns on on a game board, and Libra is moving pieces around to put themselves in the best position socially. And Cancer moves pieces around to put their emotional safety at the center. So although Cancer is warm and loving like Libra, Cancer is more self-serving emotionally than Libra is. And that's really where the tension is between these two. Because Libra will willingly give up their emotional safety for the sake of connection, Cancer would pretend to be doing that. For Leo, it's Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus and Scorpio and Leo create a square in astrology because they are all fixed signs. Additionally, Scorpio and Taurus is like fire and ice. It's not a mix, okay? And Taurus is just way too stubborn, way too controlling, you know, not necessarily for the sake of having accolades or having these grandiose like experiences. It's more for the sake of like wanting to feel in control. Taurus controls because Taurus does not want to be uncomfortable. Leo controls for a gain. The fact that the control for Taurus is coming from an emotional place and doesn't really have anything tangible tied to that reaction is very unnerving for Leo. Leo only controls because Taurus doesn't take risk when Taurus is uncomfortable. Leo take risks precisely because they are uncomfortable. Scorpio takes risks exactly for that same reason. But for Taurus, it's about the avoidance of discomfort, and these other two don't live life that way. For Virgo is Gemini and Pisces. Pisces is a sister sign of Virgo, so Pisces is basically just like Virgo, but without her ADHD meds, okay? And that drives Virgo very crazy because where is your calendar? Where is your structure? Where is your routine? Where is your accountability? Where is your hard work? Where is your responsibility? Where are you with all of these important things that help life feel harmonious? And they're non-existent in most cases. Pisces like to go with the vibe. You know, Pisces like to fly by the seat of their pants. You know, they like to do what feels good in the moment. And Virgo's a lot more neurotic than that. So naturally, that's going to create tension. For Libra, it's Cancer and Capricorn. Capricorn is basically Libra without the social skills. So as you can see, that's unnerving. I've already discussed how Cancer irritates Libra, when I was talking about Cancer earlier, so I'm not going to repeat that. But the main issue is that Libra has a lot more charm than Capricorn. Libra has a lot more social decorum than Capricorn. Libra is a lot more skilled at manipulating energy than Capricorn, and they're just not a good mix. Additionally, they're both very leadership-ish personality-wise. They both like to be in control, and when you have two personalities like that are vying for control, it can be tough. For Scorpio, it's Leo and Aquarius. Okay, I've already explained the Leo part. I want to expand upon the Aquarius part a little bit more. Aquarius and Scorpio are both the weird ones in the zodiac. They're both ruled by planets that are not spinning on their axis, that are like sideways spinning. So these two are naturally weird. And I think this is a case of two weird people that are attracted to each other, but fundamentally are just way too different because one is very involved in their own emotional world and the other is emotionally detached. So it's not a mix. For Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces are not a good mix. Way too much instability in these energies. These are all mutable energies. These are all non-committal energies that are constantly changing, constantly evolving. And when you have a relationship with two people that are like that, it makes it difficult for the relationship to take roots. For Capricorn, Aries and Cancer, I already explained the Aries part in details. What I want to add with the Cancer part is that Cancer is the sister of Capricorn. They are both similar. However, Capricorn is too rude for Cancer. For Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, you already know the drill. For Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo. Square relationship create tension and challenges in the energy. However, it does not mean that it's not possible to develop a relationship with these signs. In fact, it means that it will require more of your energy, more creativity, more innovation, more thinking outside the box, more being able to be resilient, to withstand some pressure, more digging deep, more being committed, more of actually doing the work of looking at life through a lens that isn't yours. A big part of being a good human being is being somebody who makes space for others. And square relationships require us to do exactly that. Imagine a world that isn't about you and the way that you do things. What can you do to make that world more pleasant for others? You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.